Welcome to Careful Consideration of Our Common Concerns. I'm Dr. Ted Noel. A number of you have made comments that, I'm not addressing droplet spread. So as I look at COVID-19, there are several possible ways that you can spread it. You could spread it by contact, and that's been shown not to be the primary way it's spread. You can spread by fecal oral. That is, you don't wash your hands after going to the restroom. And it turns out that there's very little evidence that that's the case, even though COVID-19 is shed in the stool in large amounts. It could be spread by droplet, which is by cough and sneeze. And when you talk, you have a little bit of droplet spread that goes out a little ways. And just to refresh, droplets are to aerosols, which we're going to talk about in a minute, as rain is to clouds. Droplets fall to the ground, and they fall very quickly because they're big enough that they're heavier than air, and as a result, they hit the floor, and they no longer participate in anything. So what happens is that we see aerosols, which are like clouds, and I figured out a demonstration, which we'll get to in a minute, with one of these. And before you get all excited, I don't smoke. The particular one I'm using here does not have any nicotine in it. I had to be instructed in how to use it. But here's what happens. That smoke that you saw come out is actually a water vapor aerosol, and it is a cloud, and it spreads everywhere. Now, I'm going to talk about two studies very briefly. One is a contact tracing study out of Guangzhou, China, where we had a restaurant, and you had 3 tables, and I'm going to count 1, 2, and 3. And we had patient 0, the vector, the sick one, at table 2. So when you had table 1, 2, and 3 in a row, he was here with a group of people, and that table got mostly infected. They were there for an hour and a half. People downwind from him at table 3 also got infected. That makes sense because the air conditioner was blowing down across table 1 to table 2 to table 3. And remember, the sick guy's at table 2. So when it goes to table 3, you would expect after an hour and a half, people over here would get sick. And they did. But what's interesting is that at table 1, a number of people got sick as well. What happened? The air conditioning carried from sick guy to table 3, through the air return, up through the air handler, and back down through, and it carried the aerosol, that cloud you just saw, to table 1. So those people got sick. Now, this other diagram we're going to show, I'm sorry that the quality for it isn't that good, but this is a floor diagram of a call center in Seoul, Korea, where contact tracing was done. It turns out, once again, that we had a huge issue where there was a sick person in that call center. And when you look at the layout of the call center, you discover that it had 2 large areas that were covered by independent air conditioners. And in the side where the sick guy worked, huge numbers of people got sick. Those red tables indicate the cubicles where sick people work. They're far beyond 12 feet. They're far 6 feet, our social distancing distance. They're far beyond 12 feet. They're far beyond whatever. But what's happening is the air conditioning comes past sick guy, over other people, through the air return, back around through the chiller, back down, and blows over everybody else. And as a result, you have a whole lot of sick people in the call center. It's an aerosol. There is no data that suggests it's any different. Now, I'm going to talk about one other study. And this other study is looking at H1N1 flu, which is the swine flu. It's not COVID-19, but its transmission is almost the same as COVID-19. And let's take a look at what happens. And of particular interest is that this was published in May in the Journal of Emerging Infectious Diseases, which is published by the CDC. That's the shop that Anthony Fauci and Deborah Birx work at. So this is a CDC publication, and what it points out is that even though mechanistic studies suggest that we ought to do hand washing and we ought to do mask wearing, and the mechanistic studies, for example, show that if you wear any old kind of a mask, droplets are going to get blocked by the mask. That's obvious, okay? Because droplets go in a straight line till they hit something, then they stop. They're either caught there or they drop down. And that's why covering your mouth when you cough. But these droplets go into the mask and stop. So that ought to stop transmission of flu. And hand washing. Oh, yes, hand washing. We've been told hand washing is very important, that it should stop transmission of flu. Okay? Mechanistic studies show this ought to work. But they examined 14, count them, 14 peer-reviewed studies and found no evidence. Bupkis, zero, zip, nada, no evidence whatever that hand washing or masks had any effect on the transmission of flu. And remember, since flu is transmitted almost the same way as COVID-19, this is applicable to COVID-19. So now let's talk about aerosols, because remember, I have already pointed out how aerosols are almost certainly the way that the bug is transmitted. And let's take a good look. Here is one of your everyday over-the-counter rubber ear loop masks. This happens to be the one that I carry in my car for all of the businesses that require me to use it. And I'm going to take a puff on this. And breathe out. You want to see that again? How much of that came through? A little bit. Most of it you saw go around the mask. It went to the right, it went to the left, it went down. And guess what? Like all clouds, it went up in the air. Droplets go down. You saw that cloud go up. It's one of those things where you have got a real problem if you think you're going to stop anything with a mask. Now, let's try another one. This is one of those cup-style dust masks. This is a brand new one. If I can get it on without any trouble here. These are royal pain in you-know-where. These supposedly are okay. And let's try this guy. Oh my goodness. It went everywhere. Whew. Thing is a pain to wear. It went everywhere. Did you see how much was stopped by the mask? Well, let's try this guy. This is a real honest surgical mask. You see the little green bit here. That foam line is designed to help me not fog up my glasses. And remember, in my last video, I talked about fogging up glasses. As for tying those, I tied those for 30 seconds. Kind of familiar with how to do it. So let's take a puff. Oh, it blocked everything, didn't it? Really worked well. Get this guy off. Usually we just broke those and threw them. They were disposable. And let's try my wife. My wife loaned me this guy. This is an ordinary fabric mask. Let's take a puff. Dang, that one went straight through. That worked really, really well to protect. It blocked all of those aerosols, didn't it? Okay. How about this guy? I bought this yesterday at Ace Hardware. You notice it's a guard mask, high efficiency filter material. Okay. Let's see what it says. Get this guy on and take a puff. That was really efficient in filtering. Well, let's try one more. I don't have an N91, but I pointed out before, these industrial respirators, you breathe in through a canister and you can protect yourself from all kinds of things. So let me put this bad boy on. Now, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold it with my hand rather than tighten up all the straps. And here comes a breath. Everything came out through that valve on the front. And anytime you see a mask that's got that little button that's about so big on it, you know somebody will be walking around with a mask like this, and there's a little button on it somewhere in this neighborhood. That is an exhalation valve. And that valve allows everything to go out like this one did. As a matter of fact, let me just do it one more time. It was so much fun showing you how that worked. I think you can get the picture now. There is absolutely nothing that any of these masks do to protect you from me. And the fact is that unless I have a mask which is fully sealed and where I breathe through the filter material both directions, and I have a really high quality filter, nothing is going to protect in either direction. Because just the same way that the vape went out, around, and through, it will come in, around, and through. Aerosols will not be stopped by masks. You don't need a big study. All you need is this. Because the aerosol here is actually larger in molecular size than the aerosol from your breath. And because your breath has a smaller, tighter aerosol, just because it can't be seen ordinarily, that aerosol will go everywhere. It gets through easier. It gets around easier. Mask. Guard masks. Cloth masks. What are they good for? Oh, here's what they're good for. If I'm going to cough, they make it so I don't have to do this and catch the aerosol. Or here, or pull out a handkerchief and do it. They don't work. You want to watch that, Mr. Fauci? Remember, I am a doctor. I do not play one on TV.
Until next time, take a look at those links below. Join me on MeWe or on Parler, the new non-censoring, non-tracking versions of Facebook and Twitter. But if you must use the old left-wing censoring versions, we're still on Facebook and at VidZet on Twitter. The message is what matters. I'm Dr. Ted Noel. Thanks for watching.